If you are planning to go to your bank this afternoon to withdraw $3,000 or more in cash, do not leave your house until you finish listening to this warning. You are about to walk into a federal trap that has been set for you by the very institution you trust with your life savings. You might think that $3,000 is a small amount. It is not $10,000. It is not a briefcase full of hundreds like in the movies. It is just enough to buy a used car, pay a contractor, or maybe you just want to keep some cash on hand for emergencies. But to the algorithm running your bank, that $3,000 withdrawal is a red flashing light. And depending on how you answer the teller's next question, you could end up with a frozen account, a secret criminal file, or police officers waiting for you in the parking lot. We need to talk about the Suspicious Activity Report, or SAR. Most Americans know about the $10,000 rule. They know that if they move 10 grand, the bank has to file a currency transaction report. But what they do not know is that the real danger zone is actually between $3,000 and $5,000. This is the structuring trap. The banks and the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, have trained their tellers to view anyone withdrawing amounts just under the reporting limit as a potential criminal. They call it smurfing. They suspect you're trying to evade the radar. So when you ask for $3,000, the teller is required by federal law to interrogate you. They will ask, "What is this cash for?" They will ask, "Do you plan to make more withdrawals later this week?" They might even ask, "What is your current occupation?" These are not friendly questions. The teller is not making small talk. They are filling out a digital form on their screen that you cannot see. If you get defensive, if you say, "It is none of your business," or if you give an answer that doesn't match your customer profile, they hit a button. That button files a SAR. You are never told about it. It is a felony for the teller to warn you that they filed it. But instantly, your name goes on to a federal watch list. In 2025, this surveillance has gone hyperactive. We are seeing reports from Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America customers who are having the police called on them simply for demanding their own money. The banks are using the excuse of protecting you from scams. They will tell the police, "We have an elderly customer who is withdrawing unusual amounts. We think he is being coerced." The police arrive, they detain you, they question you in the lobby in front of your neighbors, all under the guise of protection. But the reality is much darker. They are treating cash withdrawals as a hostile act. They are criminalizing the act of holding your own property. And once that SR is filed, the clock starts ticking on your account closure. You won't know why. You will just wake up one morning to a letter saying, "We have made a business decision to end our relationship." Your funds will be frozen for 60 days, and you'll be left with nothing but questions that no one is legally allowed to answer. This is the new reality of the American banking system. You're not a customer anymore. You are a suspect. Let us strip away the anti-money laundering excuse and look at the forensic accounting of why this is actually happening. Why would a trillion-dollar bank care if you take out $3,000? Why would they risk alienating a loyal customer over such a trivial amount of liquidity? The answer is terrifyingly simple. They do not have the money. I don't mean they don't have it on the balance sheet. I mean they do not have the physical cash in the vault to cover their deposits. You need to understand that the United States operates on a fractional reserve banking system, which has now evolved into a zero reserve reality. When you deposit $100, the bank does not put that bill in a safe with your name on it. They immediately lend out $90, or in some cases, the entire $100 to someone else in the form of a mortgage or a car loan. They keep a tiny fraction, sometimes as little as 3%, in actual liquid cash. This system works fine when everyone is asleep. It works fine when everyone is happy using their debit cards and moving digital pixels around on a screen. But the moment you demand physical reality, the moment you ask for paper bills, you are pulling a brick out of the foundation of a crumbling building. The banks are currently sitting on over $600 billion in unrealized losses. We saw the first tremor of this in 2023 with the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. Those banks didn't fail because they were robbed. They failed because they had invested their depositors' money in long-term government bonds that lost value when interest rates spiked. The entire system is technically insolvent. If just 5% of account holders went to the bank tomorrow and demanded $3,000 in cash, the entire U.S. banking network would collapse by lunchtime. There literally is not enough printed paper currency in existence to cover the digital deposits that exist on the ledgers. This is why the interrogation exists. It is not a security measure. It is a stalling tactic. When the teller asks you, "Why do you need this cash?" or "Wouldn't you prefer a cashier's check?" Well, they are frantically trying to keep the liquidity inside the system. They are trained to discourage cash withdrawals because every dollar that leaves the branch is a dollar that can no longer be leveraged 10 times over in the derivatives market. They are desperate. They are putting up friction. They are adding layers of bureaucracy, calling managers and threatening you with police involvement, all to mask the fact that the vault is empty. Think about the psychological shift that has occurred. 10 years ago, the bank was a service provider. You were the client. Today, the bank is a fortress, and you are a threat. They view your desire for physical cash as an attack on their balance sheet. The suspicious activity report is their weapon of choice. It allows them to freeze your access under the guise of federal compliance, effectively stopping the bank run one customer at a time. They are sacrificing you to save themselves. They know the liquidity crunch is coming. They know that in late 2026, the commercial real estate market is going to implode, wiping out hundreds of regional banks. They are hoarding every ounce of liquidity they can. And if that means filing a SAR on a grandmother withdrawing money for a used car, they will do it without hesitation. The system is not broken, it is rigged to prevent you from leaving. Now we arrive at the endgame. If you think the interrogation at the teller window is humiliating, you have not seen what is coming next. The war on cash, the suspicious activity reports, and the freezing of accounts are not random acts of bureaucratic incompetence. They are the deliberate demolition of the old system to pave the way for the new one, the central bank digital currency, or CBDC. The government and the central bankers have realized that as long as physical cash exists, they can never have total control over the population. Cash is the last frontier of privacy. It is the only way to transact without leaving a digital footprint. It is the only way to vote against their policies without being canceled. And that is why they are making it painful, dangerous, and suspicious to use it. The interrogation you face when withdrawing $3,000 is a psychological operation. They are conditioning you. They are training you to believe that accessing your own wealth is a privilege, not a right. They are introducing so much friction, the questions, the delays, the police threats, that eventually you will surrender. You will say, "It is too much hassle to get cash. I will just use the app." And the moment you make that decision, the trap snaps shut. You have voluntarily walked into the digital prison. They are building the walls of this prison right now with a system called FedNow. They market it as instant payments and convenience. They tell you it is about getting your paycheck faster. Do not believe the marketing. FedNow is the infrastructure for the CBDC. It is the highway that allows the Federal Reserve to bypass the commercial banks and connect directly to your wallet. Once the physical cash is gone, eliminated by coin shortages and suspicious activity limits, you will be forced onto this digital rail. And this is where the nightmare begins. In a CBDC world, money is not an asset you own. It is a permission slip you are granted. The money becomes programmable. The algorithm that currently files a SAR on you for withdrawing cash will be upgraded. It will no longer just report you. It will restrict you. Imagine trying to buy a plane ticket and the transaction is declined because your carbon footprint for the month is too high. Imagine trying to buy ammunition or gold or red meat and seeing purchase not authorized category restricted. This is not science fiction. The technology exists today. They are already testing expiry dates on digital currency in China, where you must spend your stimulus funds by a certain date or they vanish. This is why they are terrified of your $3,000 withdrawal. Every dollar you pull out of the bank as cash is a dollar that cannot be programmed. It is a dollar that cannot be turned off. It is a dollar that creates a blind spot in their surveillance grid. They are desperate to close these blind spots before the system resets. They need 100% digital compliance so they can enforce negative interest rates. In the next crisis, they won't bail out the banks with tax money. They will bail in the banks by seizing a percentage of your deposits. If you're holding cash, you are immune. If you are in the digital system, you are the victim. The teller asking you, "Why do you need this cash?" is effectively asking, "Why are you trying to escape the slaughterhouse?" They know what is coming. The digital gates are closing, and they are trying to keep the herd inside the fence until the lock is engaged. There's only one way to opt out of this insane asylum. There's only one asset class left on this planet that does not require a password, does not require a bank's permission, and does not generate a suspicious activity report when you use it. It is not Bitcoin, which lives on a permanent public ledger that the NSA has been tracking since 2009. It is not real estate, which is registered in government databases and can be taxed into oblivion. It is physical silver. I am talking about real, heavy, tangible metal. When you hold a silver eagle or a generic round in your hand, you are holding the only financial instrument that is truly anonymous. It has no serial number linked to your biometric identity. It has no GPS tracker. It has no on-off switch controlled by a central banker in Washington. If you want to give wealth to your children without the IRS taking a 40% cut, you hand them a tube of silver. If you want to pay a contractor without triggering a 1099-K audit, you pay them in silver. It is the ultimate ghost money. It is the only thing that allows you to transact in the physical world without leaving a digital blood trail for the forensic accountants to follow. The interrogation stops the moment you exit the banking system. The teller can bully you about your cash withdrawal because that cash is still a liability of the Federal Reserve. It is their paper, But silver is not a liability. It is an asset. It is nobody else's promise. When you own it, there is no counterparty risk. If JP Morgan Chase goes bankrupt tomorrow, which is a mathematical certainty given their derivative exposure, your silver does not vanish. It does not get bailed in. It sits quietly in your safe, completely immune to the chaos burning down the financial sector. The government knows this. They know that silver is the Achilles heel of their digital control grid. That is why they suppress the paper price. That is why they mock it as a barbarous relic. They want you to believe it is outdated because they are terrified of what happens if the public rediscovers it. If just 1% of the American population took their $3,000 allowance out of the bank and bought physical silver, the COMEX would default in 48 hours. The manipulation would break, the scarcity would be revealed, and the price would explode to its true value. By stacking silver, you're not just protecting your purchasing power. You are actively voting against their system. You are taking your labor, your energy, and your life force, and you are freezing it in a form that they cannot inflate, cannot track, and cannot confiscate without physical force. Do not wait until the interrogation becomes a confiscation. Do not wait until the CBDC is mandatory. The window to exit the digital system is closing. Every time you successfully withdraw that $3,000, despite the glare of the teller and the threat of the police, do not let it sit under your mattress as paper. That paper is dying. Convert it immediately into the metal of kings. Turn the liability into an asset. Make yourself invisible. The next time you walk into a bank, remember, you are entering enemy territory. Get your mission done, get your liquidity out, and retreat to the safety of hard assets. They can lock the digital doors, they can shut down the ATMs, they can turn off the internet, but they cannot turn off the value of silver. It has survived the fall of Rome, the Weimar Republic, and the British Empire. It will survive the Federal Reserve. The only question is, will you be holding it when the music stops?